Connected to the political drama is the potential legal drama. Josh Blackman is an associate professor of law. He's on the faculty of the South Texas College of Law and joins us from Washington. So, Josh, it seems that there's no smoking gun, or, well, I'll let you decide. You tell me if you think that there's a smoking gun in Mr. Comey's testimony. But does Mr. Comey's testimony raise enough questions to build a case against the president for obstruction of justice?
So thanks for having me. The critical question to think about for obstruction of justice is what was Trump's intent? Did he have what's called a corrupt intent or a corrupt state of mind? Comey was very careful today to not reach that conclusion. He said that's for the special counsel, Robert Mueller, to decide. But what's critical here is one or two sentences that Trump said. Trump said regarding the Michael Flynn investigation, you know, I hope you can let it go. I hope you can let this go, something to that effect. Was that Trump ordering him? Was that Trump pressuring him? Was that Trump trying to interfere with the investigation? And these are the specific legal questions that would have to be considered to determine whether he even qualified for the crime of obstruction of justice.
All right. Since you brought it up, I'm actually going to quote now from the U.S. Criminal Code, and this is what it says. And it says, it is illegal to corruptly or by threats or force or by any threatening letter or communication attempt to influence, intimidate, or impede any officer in connection with his or her duties in a federal case. So based on that, and what you were just saying, is that difficult to prove?
Well, so theoretically, let's pretend it's not Donald Trump, right? Let's pretend it's the mayor of some city who told his chief of police, I hope you can drop this prosecution. I hope you can do this. Let the guy go. There's a credible case that such a statement would amount to obstruction of justice and have that intent of corruption. But there's an important question to consider, and it's one that the courts have never actually answered. Can the U.S. president actually be charged with a crime? Both the Nixon administrations and the Clinton administrations, both of which were under siege, as your listeners and watchers will recall, ruled that the president cannot be charged with a crime while in office. But this is something that's never been tested in the courts.
Wow, that is interesting. Lots of talk about tapes. President Trump brought it up, saying a while back, Mr. Comey better hope that there are no tapes. And then James Comey today said, I hope, Lordy, I hope there are tapes. Is that, and then the White House today said they don't, Sarah Huckabee Sanders says she doesn't know if there are tapes. And then when she was asked about, could you look into this and get back to us? And she said, sure, I'll look under the couches, kind of dismissing it. So is that an important question, the existence of tapes?
Well, this harkens back to the Nixon White House in painful ways. If Donald Trump actually recorded these and Comey said release them, then there's a legal proceeding that would have to happen to bring these tapes out. But even if we had these tapes, right, assuming that Comey's memo is accurate, is there anything in the tapes that would change the equation? No. I think at bottom what we have here is the president acted improperly. He acted utterly inappropriately, like a bull in a china shop, perhaps. It'll be up to the special counsel to decide if his conduct and specifically his intent rose to the level of obstruction of justice. But another constitutional point for your watchers, Robert Mueller is a special counsel. He can't bring criminal charges himself. He can only make a recommendation to the Attorney General. Actually, it's the acting Attorney General, a guy by the name of Rosenstein. And unless the Associate Attorney General decides to charge the president, this goes nowhere. And we run back into the big question, can the president be charged with a crime by his own subordinates?
Well, these are all interesting questions. Meanwhile, the president's lawyer, Mark Hasowitz, says the president never directed or suggested that Mr. Comey stop the investigating anyone, including Flynn. So how significant is that assertion legally?
Well, I think the issue with Flynn must be separated from the issue with Trump. Comey, despite his investigations, never came forward to Congress and told them that he thought the president was trying to obstruct justice. And I think that's relevant because, at least as far as Comey was concerned, Trump didn't have the requisite intent. And your watchers may recall back last year when he decided not to prosecute Hillary Clinton for her email servers, he said a very similar thing. He said Hillary did not have the intent to leak classified information. So again, I keep going back to intent. That's the critical issue here. What did Donald Trump intend to do with these statements?
And so, obstruction of justice could lead to impeachment, but then there's a whole political question around that as well that gets outside of the legal framework. Do you want to just tell us about that?
Well, under our Constitution, the House of Representatives can file what are known as articles of impeachment. And an article of impeachment is a document charging the president with certain crimes. Now, those crimes don't have to match the crimes in our federal laws. Indeed, in our federal courts, you need to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. In the impeachment proceedings, you don't have to prove anything. You can just say, we're pretty sure he did this, and that's adequate. So Congress could reference their articles of impeachment to the federal criminal code with this corruption element, or they can simply say, we found that Donald Trump tried to impede the investigation, and that is an impeachable offense. At that point, if you have a majority of votes in the House of Representatives, then it goes to the Senate, and the Senate holds a trial at which the Chief Justice, John Roberts, will preside. You need a two-thirds majority to remove the president. This has never happened in the history of our republic where a president was removed. Almost happened to Andrew Johnson in the 1860s, but we've never had a president who was both impeached and removed from office. Hasn't happened.
Josh, great to get your insight. Thank you very much.